like to call to order the monthly meeting of the Frankfurt Plant Board on Tuesday, June 27, 2023 at 5 o'clock. This is our regular monthly meeting. It's being done as a special meeting because we're not meeting on our regular date. So only the items that are on the agenda can be considered tonight. Also one is that originally Jason DeLon was going to be able to join us by Zoom, and due to some technical difficulties, he's not going to be able to join, so he will not answer roll call and will not be part of the meeting. Is that correct, Hans? Under the procedures? Okay. So with that, Madam Secretary, will you call the roll?
Member Peabody?
Here.
Member Mason?
Here.
Member Schneider?
Here. Here.
Member Dutton Mitchell?
Here.
We have a quorum to do business. First item is consider approval of the minutes for May 16, 2023 board meeting. Everybody has those in front of them. Does anybody have any changes or corrections? If not, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes approved. Item 1.2, consider approval of the minutes for the May 31st, 2023 special board meeting. Does anybody have any changes, corrections?
Move their approval.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes approved. Item 1.3, consider approval of the minutes for the June 16th, 2023 special board meeting. Does anybody have any changes or corrections? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Minutes are approved. Next item is financials. Mr. Denton, I think you have two things to talk about.
Yes, sir. The first one here, we're have our May 31st, 2023 financials. So this will be 11 months through our current fiscal year. Fiscal year ends in June of each year, so we're just 1 month away from getting our fiscal year 23 to a close. I'd like to just quickly run through a few numbers. There's not a lot changed from last month's discussion. Page 27, this is a statement of net position. This is essentially a balance sheet, or we call it net position as a nonprofit. Looking here at total assets on line 60, you can see where we were as of May 31st, just over $224 million against your liabilities of $97.8 million. They're on 125. You take your assets minus your liability, and that would give you your net position or equity. Looking at line 145 of just over $126.3 million, with your liabilities and net position equaling your assets at just over $224 million. I plan on getting a little more in depth on the year-over-year changes next time we talk, whenever we have a whole year's of activity. So I'll probably really dive into that just a little bit more than usual next time we talk. But we also have our cash and investment schedule, debt schedule, cash flow, and then all of our statements of revenue, expense, and change in net position. So I'd like to just focus on company-wide on page 32. This is for 11 months. Page 32 is the statement of revenue, expense, and change in net position for all three divisions and our administrative departments. You'll notice here on line 20 of $95 million. After you take our operating expenses out on line 50 of just under 64, it gives you your gross contribution of $31 million. After general and admin expenses on line 275 of $23 million, and our other income, other revenue of 1.8. You can see there on line 340, the very bottom, our net contributions, $10.2 million. You'll notice that it's just $143,000 off our budget for the year. So overall revenue, we're about $750,000 below our budget through 11 months, and about $890,000 below on expenses. So keeping things in line is what we expected. It didn't always line up that nice, but this time it does through 11 months. Year over year, it's a different story. We're up at 5% in revenue, and that's primarily usage-based on our water and electric. But we're up 8.7% on expenses due to the conversations we've had months past on just basically inflation and cost of doing business for everyone's up. So overall, budget to budget's great, and we are about where we expected we would be when we looked at the worst-case scenario and being a little conservative with that budget. We do have some updates for you on our audit. We have audit preliminary procedures done by our auditors, Blue & Company, this month. That occurred. So that is setting us up to close our books out for the year after the end of this month, here in about a week. We'll be closing our books out. That takes us a little time, so I'd like to ask if we could bring the June and July financials to you all in August. That gives us time to reconcile all accounts and get the books ready for the auditors to come in. And we like to present to you what we present to the auditors for audit. So that's one thing. And there's probably just one more thing, just a reminder, last year, the board approved a 4-year water rate implementation plan. That'll be kicking in July 1. So,
And that's within the budget that we'll be talking about next, right?
yes, sir, that is
Right.
included. It was approved last, about a year this time.
Yes.
And it'll be kicking in July 1. But that's where we are for the 11 months, with the next discussion much more in depth as we have a full year.
Okay. Do we have any questions for David on the financials that you have in front of you for the period ending May 31st, 2023? Okay, seeing none, do we have a motion to accept those financials?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's approved. Well, now for the big one, sir.
Yes, sir. So we have, over the last few months, been having numerous budget conversations, and May 31st had our public budget meeting with the board. And before you tonight in your board packet is the final approved budget we're asking the board to consider tonight. So we're approving the 23-24 fiscal year budget, and we just accept the 5-year plan as we look forward, kind of get everyone an idea of what we're getting into over the next few years, allow us to budget for capital and cash and borrowing and all that good stuff. So I've passed out a summary sheet. The board got the updated budget, but there's a summary sheet that kind of shows you the year-over-year changes. It's right here. I've passed it out, kind of laying in front of you. We did have 6% payroll budgeted and got direction to move that down to 5%. So you can see in this summary on line 15, you know, there was $150,000 to $200,000 decrease in expenses that pretty much the changes you have before you for almost every year, 4 of the 5 years, increases our net contribution or overall decrease in expenses. Year 1, there are a few changes related to some wholesale water estimates and compensation study that kind of got in there and negated some of those payroll decreases. But overall, it is very similar to what you saw and discussed back on May 31st. The capital changes below are things that have, you know, as we've had 2 more months from the time you got the first draft to this one, things that have either moving behind schedule or changes that we know in the budget. So overall, you can see a little increase in our capital budget from just under 22 to 22 and a half. But I'd be glad to answer any questions or discussions, but pretty much we're very close to the budget we saw back in May 31st.
Okay. You've got the sheet in front of you that David passed out. Does anybody have any questions of David? There was, I guess, 2 items, David, we made change. We did a change on what the community action, raising that limit, right?
Yes.
On the amount, and then we made the payroll change.
Yes, sir.
Was there anything else that,
That was the
I mean,
primary.
we got the list here of the,
Yeah, that was the primary board's
Right.
discussion.
right. So do we have any questions for David? Okay. Do we have a motion?
I move we adopt the proposed budget as presented by staff.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Budget's adopted. Thank you,
all.
sir.
Thank you.
Item 3, workers' comp insurance. Who's handling? J.C.'s coming up? Okay.
It's that time of year again for all workers' compensation renewal. Sorry. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It's that time of year again for our workers' compensation renewal. Staff recommends the board approve the renewal of FPB's workers' compensation coverage with Kentucky Employers Mutual Insurance. If approved, sir, the renewal premium of $130,435.79 will be effective on July 1st. We had a 3.0 increase in payroll along with our experience modification increase to a 0.87. And that is actually a result of a large claim that we sustained in 2020. And that'll actually ride with us for about 3 years, sir. The result, of course, is a higher premium of $11,620.10. We are still receiving a very substantial schedule rating, a discount of 35% due to our safety program or past claims experience. I actually have Charlie Hamilton of Marsh McLennan here to assist with any questions you have as well, sir.
Okay, and the change in premium, David, we were aware of that going in on the budget, right?
Yes, sir, that's included in the revised draft you have.
Does anybody have any questions of JC, or does anybody want Charlie to come up? We haven't given Charlie a hard time for a long time, so I mean. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah,
Yeah, go
I
on,
have
sure.
one. David, is this amount here, is this in current year's budget, or is this to be paid out of next year's budget we just adopted?
Yes, so whenever we'll pay, and it will be booked as a prepaid expense, we'll expense it over the term, so it will
Okay.
be in the year looking forward
Okay,
for
good.
the term of the policy.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for David or for JC? If not, do we have a motion to approve the workers' comp insurance?
So moved.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Thank you, sir.
Approved. Thanks,
Thank
JC. Vint? Oh, first, do we have public comment? Anybody signed up?
I don't hear anybody signed up, did you? Commissioner Dutton, no? Okay.
Next item is item 5, Vint.
All right, the departmental reports, we'll start with public information, and Kathy Lindsay will give that to us.
Good afternoon. It's good to see you guys. Just want to give a quick update since we last met. We have been to the expo. We had a next band tent set up right downtown on St. Clair. I think we had the best spot in the whole expo. We had a lot of people stop and ask about our product. People who have seen us out in the neighborhoods and want more information. I was so glad that we were there. We had good staff that were there to be able to answer questions. More importantly, it was very hot out there and we were giving out fans. So at one point I looked around and I saw next band going everywhere. Everybody was flapping their next band fans. So love seeing that. But again, it was a good opportunity for us to be out in the community and talk more about not only next band but the other services we provide. We talked about ACP and again, just some of the other things we were reminding people, and I will do it again tonight, that we're asking all of our water customers to go to our website so that they can submit a survey. We want to know what your water service line material is, because we've been asked by the federal government, by the EPA, to report all of that. We're taking an inventory of all of our water service lines that go into the home. We have been working, communications department has been working with the water department to come up with ways that we can get more people involved to get this done, because we haven't, I believe, until October of next year to do a full inventory of all of our water service lines, and it's very important that we have our customer cooperation with that. We want them to be able to do as much as they can in order to save a little money, so we don't have to roll a truck out to all these homes to get that done. So the more money we save on this end, the more money our customers will save on their end. So we're doing what we can to get the word out about that. We also have been talking about ways we're going to be promoting our community solar program, and I think you all are talking about that tonight, approving some final things. I want to let people know that we do have a web page up. If you go to fpb.cc/community solar, there's information about our community solar program, talks about the benefits of community solar in general, has a link to the proposal that you all will be discussing tonight, and there's also a link to an interest form. If it's something that you're interested in, you can click on the link and fill out a form. So lots of things going on. We take the opportunity to work with all of the different departments here at FPB to get the good word out about all the things that are going on. We did have also last week, we had a group at the longest day of play up at Juniper Hills. Again, another opportunity to be involved in the community. We do know that we're going to be participating in the National Night Out, which is usually done by the Frankfort Police Department as kids start talking about going back to school, and it's a good opportunity for us to get out there and talk about ACP. So with that, I'm going to leave it alone and let people get up here.
Any
So
questions
thank
for
you,
Kathy?
guys. Good. Okay.
All right, next we'll do the knock report. I think David's going to fill in for Darren with that.
Yes, Darren's out tonight. Be happy to do that for him. On page 187, this is your typical NOC report for May 23, you can see for the month of May, 863 locates. And for the year, across 4 different utilities, electric, water, HFC, and Nextband, over 32,000 locates for the year. So I understand those are still up, but we've got full staffed and doing well. So that's where we are for May.
Is this the appropriate time, David, or event to ask how we weathered the storm this past weekend?
We did pretty well. We had a few outages here and there, but nothing significant. I know electric had, I think, 5 different areas that they had some issues. I think a total of about 100 customers, but those were back on within a few hours. So we fared pretty well. We had this situation where I-64 splits the storm and it goes north and south. And I don't know how that works out, but it always does. So anyway, it's pretty well. Okay, next we'll move to customer service. And April Rose, I think, will give us that report, and that's on page 189 to 193 of your board package.
Good evening, members of the board. As Vince said, our reports are on page 189 to 193. On page 189, it talks about our customer contacts. We waited on about 9,240 customers last month, which was up about 1,000 from the previous month. We typically, in the summer months, trend in the 10,000 contacts per month, just because more people are moving and those kind of things.
Is that what the extra calls are about, is moving service?
Typically, yeah, because in the summertime, you've got the kids are out of school, and so you've got more moving and things going on during the summer. The cashier transactions, I know the last time I was here, Mr. Cupine, it's been several months ago, that you asked about cash payments. So we've been kind of keeping up with those, and we're going to continue to keep up with those as we move forward with our new credit card merchant, because customers will have the ability to also make cash payments in other locations once we get that up and going. So about 60% of our payments this month were cash payments. We had 2,733 cashier transactions, and about 1,780 of those were cash payments. So a little bit of tidbit of information there. And we expect that to go down probably as we move forward with the new credit card merchant. So like I said, we'll keep up with that. But other than that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to.
Any questions for April?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we'll move to our telecom report with our telecom superintendent, Adam Hallard, and that's page 195 to 198 in your board package.
Good afternoon. The first page of the report has the customer penetrations. So looking at over the 11-month period, everything looks pretty good. The next 2 pages are the outages, which we had no outages last month, which is always good. The final page of the report is trouble call, and we were well below the average, so everything's looking good. So, real quick on Nextband, we turned on 4 more pond areas, and I think we're going to finish the year about 65% homes passed. Just a little over 17,000 homes passed. So.
Any questions for Adam? Thank you, sir.
All right, next we'll go to the electric report. And tonight, our Chief Electrical Engineer, Travis McCullough, is going to give that report. Scott's out tonight. So that'll be on page 199 to page 202 of your board package.
Good evening, everyone. As Vint mentioned, page 199 is the start of the electric department report. Pretty calm month compared to some of the previous months, especially what we had in March. The SAIDI number for May was 27.92, and our SAFE number was 0.273. Our leading cause of outages was birds for this month. I think that's about it for the electric department report. Any questions? No, if not, I'll go ahead and just briefly touch on AMI, kind of business as usual. We're at a little over 10,800 electric installs and a little over 7,800 water installs, and we're kind of same plane as usual, 500 electric devices, 250 water devices per month. They hinted they think that's going to pick up towards the end of the year, but not confirmed that. So
By pick up, you mean we do more or we get more?
we would get a few, maybe is from 500 electric to around 700 a month.
Okay.
It said possible, again, not confirmed, but so looking better anyway.
Travis, did you mention how many we'd gone by now with electric and water?
Yep, electric meters, it's 10,857 installed, 7,854 water. Yep.
And does it work? I mean, overall, operationally, is it working?
Yes, the performance has been very good. Yeah, we've been pretty impressed with that, especially on the network side. I mean, we've got meters in pretty remote areas that are working well. We just got 2 new network sites that came up this month. One that'll cover the Peaks Mill area, another one way out Louisville Road. So we got, again, 2 new towers coming up. That'll pretty much cover the electric territory. We may have to add a few more for some of the water areas, but network doing really well. I think everybody's pretty happy. We just want to be done. Yeah.
Any questions for Travis?
No, good. Thank you.
Okay, next, if you'll look at page 203 to 205 in your board package, I will give you the SEPA report. So for the month of April, we cleared $37,224. So for the calendar year, that brings us to $249,131. So as you can look at the next page, or 204, you can see your comparison to last year, how we're doing. And as I've stated the last couple of months, this year's market prices for energy is down. So therefore, we're down a little bit with what we receive as well from our energy prices. That's basically it. If you look on page 205, you will see the history of SEPA and how well we've done. And I'll be happy to answer any questions the board might have.
Any questions for Vint?
Okay. If there's no questions there, we'll move to KYMEA. Gary.
Board. KYMEA had a board meeting between our 2 board meetings. Really, they're not really much new, except they are talk about suspending the new rate, but keep the current rate, means the 2023 rate plus the ECA. So between these two is a very small difference anyway, right? But it's a little less
Okay.
than the proposed rate.
Okay.
So they want to have a little more time to look into it. Main reason is the FERC new order regard to the D-pancake. Particularly, there could potentially $9.3 million refund. The KULG asked KU delay that, so right now it's in November.
Okay.
But the concern was KULG going to file rehearing from the FERC. Potentially, they might file, go to appeal court again. That's what we all expected.
Yeah.
So that process may take a year and a half. So one of the idea KYMEA talk about, cash will come to KYMEA after refund, but all the attorney, everyone else, even operation, really have a big concern, just in case FERC give new orders, change their direction one more time, or potentially appeal court give them different order. They can swing that 9.3 million in other direction plus interest very quickly. So the idea is put that money in certain reserve until we all settle it. Nobody can touch it until settle. So that's a part of the reason. Another part of it is based on FERC order, because as you know, 2 years ago, KULG started to charge part of the D-pancake, that 70 megawatts, right? A total 170. So that part, based on new order, they cannot charge anymore. So all this going to be reflect a certain uncertainty, how much the KYME should charge each member. And until all the uncertainty, hopefully in few months we can have a more clear picture. You know, they want to hold on. I think that's probably reasonable way to hold, see what happened. But overall, they are cash position, not the, increase a lot, still below 40 days right now. But they expect by July 1st, they probably going to cross line little more than 40.
John?
Yes.
Gary, you mentioned the rate. Will this interim rate or whatever, will it be the old rate plus the PCA, or will they charge the old rate and continue to charge the PCA as two separate things? I guess is the question I have. Or is Or is the new rate gonna be lower than what they thought it was going to
The
be?
new rate actually is based on it's two things. I think one is what a KYME charge a plan board.
Right,
The another part is what a plan board charge our own customer.
right.
Is two separate things. From KYME part is
Right.
for KYME rate, the new rate actually is not necessarily lower. Keep maintain current rate plus ECA actually is a little less.
I get,
To plan board,
I guess
yes.
the question I have
Yes.
is, will it still show up as two separate charges?
Yes.
Or are they gonna combine those two into one until they come up with a settle on a new rate?
It's still, if you would look at the bill, will be still in
It
the
would
one
still be
page, but it's different line
Do
item.
different lines,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
I just wanna make sure our folks know that on July first, that PCA is still gonna be there, but it's, on their bill, will it still be on their bill, or is that gonna be?
It's still on their bill to us,
Okay,
but based
but
on,
that'll be moved into our rate.
Base
yeah,
rates.
Okay.
if you approve
Okay.
the rate,
Yes.
we're gonna talk
Yes.
about, we're already
Okay.
discussing quite a few
Right.
times.
Then the customer
Then
will
the
just see one.
customer
And the
wouldn't
customer will
say
only
that.
see one bill, one rate,
Yes,
one rate.
yes.
Okay,
So
okay.
relatively speaking, correct me, if a customer
That's right.
have exactly same kilowatt hour use between the June and July,
Right,
based on you prove a new rate,
Right.
they wouldn't say increase, it will be slight.
very, very small, yeah.
Right, right about the same charge, maybe a little less, the one or two, depending on usage.
Very
could-
small.
Could see a tiny.
If they use exactly same uses, they should a little less.
Okay,
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
okay, good.
I will happy to answer any question. I mean, that's a very,
The other thing, you sent us an
Yes.
email this afternoon with the groundbreaking for Ashwood is
yes,
July 26th.
July 26th.
Which is the day after our next board meeting, right, Kathy?
Or meeting is a week
No.
before.
What's our next,
No, our next board meeting should be on the third Monday,
third Monday?
it's the 18th is our
Okay.
board meeting.
Yes,
or third Tuesday,
Tuesday.
I'm sorry, third Tuesday.
it's a week.
Is it August that has gotten moved?
August, we have a request to move August, yeah.
Okay.
So, but if anybody, I guess, Hans, if any of the board wants to go to that Ashwood, if more than two want to go, does that have to be public noticed, or since it's a groundbreaking, not a meeting, is it like an education or a conference, or you wanna take a look at that and let us know?
I think you could notice it just to be on the safe side, but if there's no discussion of public business, would somebody is that ceremony public business? That'd be the question. Usually, quorum plus discussion equals a public meeting, so.
I tell you what, just to eliminate
Yeah.
any possible confusion, I will recuse myself from making the trip down there. So,
It is what, it's 4.5 hours each way?
Yes. The ceremony itself is very short. Still is in the middle of nowhere. They're a little bit structured. They talk about the transmission substation, and there could be some of the container hold a panel, but that's pretty much.
And this
Yeah.
will, then next year would be the big round, when actually they turn it on, in theory.
Yes,
Yes.
in next year, suppose before online or after a little bit online.
I tell you what, Jason's not here, let's send him. How about that?
Gary, do you think
Yes.
that the suspension of the new rate,
Mhm.
do you think it would carry through until if there's an appeal filed, until an appeal is decided?
It is really depends on two parts, right? Is KYMN being charged their ECA, any others, is because they, as you know, they plan to spend $10 million on their cash to buy cash down, buy the rate down for last year until July 1st. But when in the middle of that year, we all may remember just because the fuel cost increase, the coal and natural gas increase, cost them, they find out based on their rate they charge, they cannot even 10 million cannot be enough to cover that. They're going to stay below 40-day quite a bit. So that's a part of the reason ECA kick in. And but they plan to two-part. I think most I try to make it simple. It depends on the KYME overall finance improvement. That's why I'm talking about refund the cash. When the cash come in, when that cash wouldn't, when they put a special reserve, you cannot do anything, cannot even count it. But once we release it, that's going to be the cash for KYMEA. Once the case settle in certain degree. So the ECA or the rate heavily depends on how much money they have, and also current operation continually. They can hold on where they are or continue small increase, improve their finance. I think a bigger part of difference between these two rates is the fuel cost every month. Based on new rate, fuel cost is much higher than current rate. So we can see a little bit of break, but until, I guess simple question is, if next few months, particularly what they're looking for is after this summer, what the overall finance, what it looks like. If they are better, they can hold on. They don't want to charge more than they need to. That's basically, particularly how do we treat that future cash once the refund come in, whenever FERC or the court give the order, or the company decide not to go to appeal court, whatever the reason, then we can treat that cash certain way. That will change the position. How do we keep the rate for QME?
But the order's been issued, right?
The order is being issued.
Okay, and do you know what the appeal deadline is?
I think it's 45 days, I heard. But they're going to first ask a rehearing from the FERC. Then they have FERC have a certain day, 30 days, they can just say ignore their order, or they can simply say that's our order. Most expectation FERC going to hold the current order because that's based on the judgment from the appeal court. So it's a procedure-wise, probably Hans can see much better than I do, is there's a certain window, I guess, 2.5 months overall, then we will say what they're going to do. I mean, we probably going to follow to most likely our attorney. When they file anything, most likely KYME going to file very similar to go through again.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no more questions on KYMEA, we'll move to Safety Department report. That's page 207 to 208 in your board package. And we have John Lyons again, our Safety Director, to give that report to you.
Good afternoon again, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As Vince stated, the safety report starts on page 207 and runs through 208. Had a good May, no OSHA recordables or vehicle accidents report. Happy to answer any questions.
That is a good report.
Yes, sir. Short and sweet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next we'll do our water distribution report. That's page 209 to page 211 in your board packet. And tonight we have the Assistant Superintendent, Danny Herron, and he will give that report to you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, board members. The water distribution monthly report is on pages 209 through 211. For the month, we installed 5 new services, had 3 main breaks and 2 outages. Beside the normal board report, construction crews and service crews have completed the new street water main replacement. Our painting contractor for Taylor Tot Tank is around 15% complete. And then our system maintenance crews are about 50% complete on our annual flushing program.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we will move to the water treatment plant report, page 213. And Brandon Powers, the water treatment plant superintendent, will give you that report.
Good evening, everyone. For the month of May, the water treatment plant treated 249,220 gallons of water for an average daily production of 8.03 million gallons per day. Lock 4 averaged 2,370 cubic feet per second for an average of 1.53 billion gallons per day. And there were 2.94 inches of rain recorded in the watershed this month. Happy to answer any questions if you got them.
Question for, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Okay, then, action items, and if we could, take items 6.1 and 6.13. And then the people, because we've got some guests, and that way they can be here, and then they can leave after that. So Travis, you want to?
All right, good evening again, everyone. It being the end of the fiscal year and almost start of a new budget year, that means it's time to renew the weatherization contract, and I've got backup this time, so I'm very grateful for that. During the budget meetings, we discussed for next fiscal year on the weatherization project with Bluegrass Community Action, we're going to keep the $40,000 budget amount, which is the same it's been for the past 2 years. But we also discussed increasing the per customer amount from $2,000 to $2,500. That was, one of the main reasons being is inflation, everything else. We're of course all well aware of. That $2,000 limit was a little bit low for some of the needs that we're trying to address. So if it's okay with the board, I'll just hand it over to Sarah Clark, and she'll speak on their weatherization program a little bit, and we can answer any questions. Okay.
Good afternoon. I am Sarah Clark, the Senior Director of Community Services with Bluegrass Community Action Partnership. I do want to tell you a little bit about Bluegrass Community Action. We do service low-income and near low-income households in a primary service area of 9 counties, including Franklin County. And we are a private not-for-profit agency that's been around since the 60s. We do offer various programs such as aging programs, transportation, a Head Start program, and we have community services. So within community services, we assist with utility bills. We have connectors that help people get with health insurance, SNAP applications, and the Child Care Assistance Program. We do have a weatherization program, and we do our Frankfurt Plant Board Energy Efficiency Weatherization Program. So we have coaches that work individually with our families to help them reach their goals, whether it's education, employment, income management, housing, and help them get to economic mobility and success. So our program is helping them decrease their bills, improve their home environment, and we're working across our agency to make sure that our families that are in our senior centers, in our senior programs, in our Head Start programs are benefiting from this program. So on the report that I passed out, this is from the past 2 years. The first year we had the program, we did assist 6 households, and within those 6 households, there's 13 individuals. This year we have increased that to 13 households, and we got 3 more completed this week, so that's actually 16, and then 31 individuals. And you'll see that breakdown of the ages of those that are in the home. So you'll see under 18, we have 3 that are 0 to 5, 9 that are 6 to 13, and 7 that are 14 to 17. From 18 to 24, 3 individuals, 25 to 54, 8 individuals, 55 to 65, 6 individuals, and those that are over the age of 65, 4 individuals. The level of household income within these households, 7 households are below 50% of the federal poverty level. From 51 to 75% was 1 household, and then 76 to 100% was 6 households. So the majority of our households are under 100% of the federal poverty level. And then 5 of them was 101 to 125%. And then we did list the most common measures that are being taken in these homes to reduce their energy burden, and that is insulation, air sealing, and weather stripping. There are other measures, but these are the 3 most common.
Sarah, do you all see, or do you follow up or measure in terms of, you do the audits, you work with the families, and you do the insulation, the air sealing, weather stripping? Is there any way you have any sense of, is it making a difference on reducing their energy bills? Is it helping them? Do you get feedback from the families that it's been positive, or?
We do. Often these families come in for LIHEAP, which is the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, or LIWAP, the water program. And a lot of them give positive feedback to people coming in and doing these measures and how they see a difference, especially in the winter. Mm-hmm.
Does anybody have questions for Sarah?
Sarah, do you have a total of the dollar amount of improvements made for those 16 households.
I didn't bring it with me.
I have got the total for what we've received today. It was a little over 19,000 so far this fiscal year. A little over 19,000.
Okay, thank you.
Does that include the 3 you just did?
Did you include those from today?
I don't think so,
No.
no. So that'll be probably another
6,000 on that.
What do you sense? Do you have a feel on what the unmet need is out there, out in the community?
I think a lot of it is balancing their budget with it being, especially in extreme weather that we've experienced the past few years. They're trying to get a sense of how to balance that budget. So when ice storms come, they're trying to prepare for those bills, but you know, in a normal case, my bill will go up maybe $50, $100. Theirs are going up to $300. So that unexpected cost is really hitting them during the hardest time. So I think taking these measures is going to help long term with those effects.
Do you, when the customers, then do you coordinate or work with like April or Cassie, our people in customer service on those people when they're trying to budget and they can't pay their bills? And
Absolutely, especially through LIHEAP, the winter care programs that we have. We're constantly communicating with customer service on bills, who has a disconnect, what portion's electric, what portion's water. And we've actually have a very streamlined process to where, you know, we're going through an agency email and getting a very quick response back.
I have a question, maybe not necessarily for Sarah, but when the total amount, the total 40,000 isn't used, what happens with the unused portion?
We just rolls forward. We don't stack it and add to the pool. It's a new set of money each year. So if there's left over, it
So
just
it just goes back into our general revenue?
correct.
Steve?
I would propose that we would not stack, we would keep it in the pot and add the additional, whatever the budget around each year.
Shall not lapse.
It shall not lapse.
It shall not lapse?
Yeah. 229.
Yeah, 40, it is 45 to 29.
That it shouldn't lapse, that it should stay there with the pot so the pot can grow in those times when it's not needed.
So in this case, like for example, say if we've spent 19,000 today plus those 3, so say we've spent 25,000. So for year ending this week, this Friday, they had 15,000 of the 40 left, and then we approved a new 40. Then next year they'd actually have 55,000.
Yeah, and the reason for that is because there may be some unexpected uptick, but it also allows us, if new problems arise, that we may be able to afford. It won't just be a financial shock to us. If we want to consider, the money will be there. If it's not needed, it'll just keep building.
So, what would, well, Ms. Clark, what do you think about that?
I'm on board.
And see, Steve opened the door for you. So see
I
what-
know,
yeah.
he's opening more doors for me. I will say this past year we did a reorg, and so part of the year was transforming that reorg, and we were in a little bit of a lull with the program. I did bring Leslie Porter, who's the Community Services Program Manager, and she directly oversees the Frankfurt Plant Board Weatherization Program. And she came in July, and since July is when we've got the majority of our homes. So with her on board and rolling this program, I do see us doing more homes in the future, getting closer to that 40,000 mark.
Well, I mean, this does line up with us increasing the cap per person or per household to 25. And maybe if we had, I mean, one, it doesn't, it lessens any impact on us. And maybe next year it would, if the rollover continues, then I think we could seriously consider upping that cap. I mean, the goal is, sooner than later, it helps us all if people get more energy efficient.
Yes.
So, I don't know, I think it's just an incentive to push the program and maybe for us next year to make sure we consider upping that cap again, especially if inflation keeps up.
So see, we have the contract in front of us with the amendment from the 2,000 to 2,500. And amendment 2, per customer. So do you want to make another amendment?
Well, would that be,
I guess the question is, can we do that at a special meeting?
Hans? Can we amend this contract?
well, let me,
Okay,
Go ahead.
I guess to me, the place where the amendment would be on the budget.
It's a budget
mhm,
amendment.
right.
Yeah.
As opposed to a policy
Right.
bill. So, I mean, the budget is on the agenda, so.
Yeah.
I mean,
Counselor?
Well,
The budget's on the agenda. I think it's a specific enough description. If you wanted to go back and take action on your budget, that would be a permissible item. And then this part of it, the 2,000 to 2,500 would be under the 6.1.
Okay.
But you're increasing the monies, the roll of the monies, Mr. Mason's. I think that would be the budget, which would be under your first.
So what we do is we have a motion on 6.1, and then we basically reconsider the vote on,
tell you what,
On 2.2?
here's a suggestion.
okay,
Why don't we get the dollar amount on the last 3 people?
okay.
And
Do this in July?
figure out at the end of this fiscal year exactly how much money we have left. Do a budget amendment
Amendment
in
in
the
July?
July meeting, for that exact amount, putting that into the weatherization
Okay.
program. How about that?
So David, that work
Be
for you?
okay?
Okay.
And do we, either, well, is the procedure, and we don't just send 40,000, is it when you all need more, is that when we send it?
Yes,
in-
so once it's
We
completed,
reimburse.
And-
yeah, we send
Got
an
it.
invoice over to Travis and then it's reimbursed to us.
Got it, okay, all right.
oh, I'll make a motion that we carry through with this.
Yeah, on this item.
Item 6.1.
6.1.
Mhm. So do you make a motion?
I'll
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second, and this will be to approve what's in front of us right now. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Amendment's approved. And so,
We'll get a budget number.
right, and Kathy, in the July meeting, make sure you put that on to revisit that. And then item 6.13, you've got a email in front of you from Sarah, and this was Louisville Gas Electric. It was on, I guess, WHAS TV a couple of weeks ago. And they approved a program, because there are a number of people that don't have air conditioning. And they approved a program, and I forget how many they bought, to provide box fans to their community action agency. This would basically, I think, Sarah, you indicated that you thought maybe 50
Yes,
could be used here in the community.
yes,
And they run roughly about $20
that's correct,
a
yeah.
piece. And I think the idea would be, and if the board sought to do so, to ask Sarah to work with David Denton on the actual purchasing, invoicing, and delivery and everything that need to happen. Because chances are, if we buy them in bulk, they'll probably come in below 20. Because I think the retail price on them is about 22. So this would basically provide the box fans, and they would decide who would get the fans where they're most in need for this summer. And you want to talk any about that, or what you kind of see out there as the need for this?
Yeah, so I'd say our biggest need is really with our elderly population and our families that have young children is who we mostly have calling in. Years ago, Community Action used to do air conditioners, and somehow that has still stayed in the community, and they'll contact us, especially in July and August when it's the hottest.
But you don't have any air conditioners, do you?
No, we didn't. We haven't done that for years, but we still get that call because it's still a need. And most of them have young children, or they're older, and the heat in the home really interferes with their breathing.
I can remember years ago when I was in Human Resources, we had people that their homes had been weatherized with plastic,
Yes.
and then didn't take the plastic off in the summer.
Yeah.
Couldn't open their windows. I mean, it was just because nobody was there to take the plastic off.
Right,
It
and they
was-
couldn't get it down.
Yeah. So that's basically item 6.13. Like I said, you've got an email there. If anybody has any other questions for Sarah, or if we have a motion.
I'll move that we approve the program for the fans to the community action, Bluegrass Community Action Project.
Okay, we have a motion.
Given that my air conditioner died last year, I would second that.
Do we have a motion? We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Contract approved. So David, if you'll coordinate with Sarah on that and
Will do.
whatever takes the best way to get that done.
Sure.
Okay?
Great. Thank you all.
Sarah, thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
Okay, item 6.2, consider, wait a minute, are they here yet?
Craig is on his way. He is not here yet, so if the
We'll pass
board is
over.
okay, we'll push that to the end of the meeting.
Yeah, Craig actually is en route, his plane was delayed. So we're just gonna push this one to the end of the agenda and then give him time to arrive.
And hopefully he will be here.
You wanna hold 6.3 to then, or go and talk about 6.3 now?
It's up to the board. We can discuss it now if you like. Craig did assist us with part of the tariff for the community solar project, so he can lend some insight into that, but it's whatever the board's pleasure. We can discuss it now, or if you want to hear his comments on that as well.
What's the board's preference on?
I'd like to wait till
Wait,
he's here.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so we'll go to item 6.4, well, let's see. We'll go to item 6.5.
Okay. I'm
Um,
out of here.
Vent and Hans, you wanna talk about,
We can do the change order, can't we?
you wanna do the change order?
Change order's different.
Okay, let's do this. Item 6.4, the change order, consider approval of community solar change order, and this is just a delay in some materials, right?
It is. It's
Yes.
a delay in materials. The vendor was expecting them to be here by now, like most things we deal with. Of course, they didn't show up when they're supposed to, and now they're saying at least a month out. Of course, nothing like last-minute updates. There is a slight change versus what we knew when we put the agenda item together. So kind of here's the latest. The part that has been delayed is the main disconnect switch. So you can think one big off switch for the whole facility. It's a 1200 amp switch, which will cover not only phase one, but the entire project, all 4 phases when we get there, which was our intent to be ready to go whenever we want to expand, everything would be in place. So that's delayed. We talked to Solar Energy Solutions. They have proposed temporarily putting in smaller disconnect switches, so it would be 3 100 amp disconnects to get the facility online and operational in advance. That can happen probably as early as this week, maybe next week. That's basically the last thing they have to do. They'll have to make up the transformer connections. That's supposed to happen Thursday. So, all that being said, the ask from Solar Energy Solutions is get it online temporarily, probably by the end of this month. Come back in, it's likely going to be August, based on everything they know right now today, to do the final commissioning with the 1200 amp disconnect. So what that means as far as, you know, the total program offering to customers, getting subscribers, what we would propose is let's get it online, because that's, you know, what we paid for. We want the energy off of it, right? Of course. Have a little bit of a waiting period. Make sure the facility's operational. We can test it out. We can validate, you know, how much energy we're getting. We know what we've got. Start taking soft sign-ups from customers. So let people fill out the interest form Kathy mentioned. Get on the website, get their name in. We can start, you know, getting that customer information, but not start charging or giving any credits until we know we're solid on the operation of the facility. You know, we should have a better idea next month, if it is in fact online, what the status is of that disconnect we're waiting on. So that
Will there be any cost adjustments? I know there was no cost on this one, but if they go with the smaller switches, then come back and put in the bigger switch, will there be some additional labor or parts, or will that just be?
They have not requested any additional funding for that. I'll make sure that they're, you know, all on the same page. But we've had a lot of back and forth on it. The change order was for $0. I think everybody was on the same page there. So that's kind of my idea as far as how to address the change order. If the board would like to do that, maybe we could revise the change order to say final full commissioning by August 31st instead of July 31st, to account for, you know, any potential delays, and we can handle that however you like. If we just want to revise it and send it back to them, or have them provide us an updated copy.
See, that would be in the first paragraph.
Yeah, so the new completion date was 7/31. That was as of a few days ago.
Okay.
And then everything I just...
If it's
yeah.
appropriate then, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to amend this change order to have a full project completion date of 8/31/23 rather than 7/31/23, and then send that back to our vendor to see if it's amenable to them, and if it's amenable to them, we've approved it, you know, and they can sign off on it.
And then in that first sentence, just, Energy Solutions has requested, rather than say a 1 month, just say they've requested a delay.
A delay, yes.
Does that work for you, Travis?
I think that works, yes, sir.
Does everybody see the change we're making? In line 2, striking 1 month, and then at the end, simply what, changing the date, John? In the
Yes.
last sentence?
Yes, the last sentence, and
First
then under,
paragraph.
under detail would be 8/31 rather than 7/31.
You got that, Kathy? Yes. Is everybody okay with that?
And a 1 month delay down below becomes 2 month delay, essentially. Okay.
Okay, so we have that's the pen and ink change, like the old days?
I made a motion for that amendment.
Do we have a second to the change? Steve seconded. Any other further changes, questions? If not, is everybody, we have a motion second, everybody in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion's adopted.
Thank you.
Thanks, Travis.
Yes, sir.
That's like the old days, you know?
Do I need to make a motion to pass the change order as amended?
Yeah, I guess we do, yeah.
Well, I'll go ahead and make a motion to adopt the change order as amended by the previous action.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Approved. Item 6.5, I think we put on this, Vince and Hans gonna discuss it. This has no money attached to it. This is basically, brings these people online basically as a contract that they're available if we need them, but we're not approving anything. If in fact there will be a scope of work for them to do, that would come back to us to actually approve it, put a budget amount and a price tag on it. This simply adopts them as a resource we can use. So turn it over to you, Vin.
Yeah, correct. We have monies in our approved budget for engineering studies. So if we came back, we probably could handle it with one of those. I don't know that the board would have to amend the budget, but but certainly we could bring it back. We would bring it back to the board. So in light of the Frankfurt Plant Board's participation in KYMEA and the numerous power supply and transmission matters that regularly come before this board, staff believes it would be advantageous to engage a firm to provide continuing and independent subject matter expertise as it considers and evaluates these power supply matters. To that end, staff engaged with 6 firms to determine the best fit and qualifications to provide these services to the plant board. We received 4 responses, and after careful evaluation, based on the available staff qualifications, the technical expertise in the field that they have, and specific experience with other municipals in Kentucky, and the power supply challenges of this specific region and the things we deal with the KU territory and MISO. GDS Associates was determined to be the clear first choice out of our selection. So with the assistance of Hans, we're proposing this continuing services contract that we negotiated, and staff recommends approval of the agreement with GDS Associates.
I think, Hans, from what you said, you talked to some of the utilities, and some said it's one of the best firms they've ever used.
Yeah, I spoke with Brad Bickett. He's the general manager at Henderson Power and Light in Henderson, Kentucky, and he said they've used them since 2010. He had absolutely great things to say about them. Really, just their professionalism and their expertise and how they've put together reports for them. They've been very thrilled through the years, and they've gone through quite a few changes with their power supply. So I think that was good to hear. And then I also spoke with Tim Lyons, the general manager at Owensboro Municipal. I've known Tim for many, many years, and so I had a good conversation with him about it. Owensboro has used them since about 2009, and again, they've gone through quite a few things. They've gone through different legal situations they've shut down their coal plants, they've looked at other options, and they've been very thrilled with the work that they've gotten from GDS. I will say of all the different firms I've looked at through the years and all the different things, this is probably 2 of the best references I've ever gotten from someone. And again, these references are people we've known a long time, we've done business with. So I am very confident that GDS will do a good job. They're well known in the industry. You know, Gary's has known who GDS is for quite a few years. I think he recommends them as well. And so I have no problem recommending the board approve this. And I think it'll give the board a great tool to be able to just jump to when we have decisions. And these decisions, as we know, they just keep coming more and more. So that would be our recommendation.
Any questions of Vint? Steve?
First, I'm glad we're doing this, but my question comes to how this group will be implemented, how it will be engaged, you know? What would be the approval process as to engage them? You know?
So if the board determined, or let's say with our KYMEA meetings, we determine we need to engage or get some expertise on a particular subject matter, so we would engage with the GDS, the staff would. We would say, give us a scope of work for a particular type of things that need to be done. You know, we may be communicating with the board at the same time about exactly what that scope would be. And then once we get a scope back, depending on the cost of that scope, if it's outside our ability to approve, we would, you know, obviously bring that back to the board for approval. If it was under our specific levels to approve, again, we have general engineering monies in the budget, I think we would go ahead and approve and move forward with it. But if the board would prefer, we could bring every one of those scopes back, no matter the amount.
But to answer Steve's question, the work would still be directed by the board. You know,
yes.
we would tell you to go ahead.
He's not saying, I don't think that's what he's saying, but go on.
No, that's what I took from what he said, was
He
that
said
we
if-
would.
He said if the amount is below, if the amount was what they could approve, they would go on and do it.
Yes, but in terms of engaging them in the first place, that directive would come from us. If we need them to look at a specific question or specific scope of work,
And
that
I think-
direction would come from
I
us.
also think if they thought they needed them to look at something and it was within their approval level to engage them.
Well, I mean, technically, I think anything that we would be looking at, for instance, if KYMEA is looking at a new power supply option, I don't think that would be in a box where the board wouldn't know about it. So that would be the kind of thing we would say, a lot of questions here, do you want us to engage these folks to look at that? And then we would go out and put the scope of work together. For something like that, I would think the cost would be, you know, over our minimum amount, and we could bring back to you. But if the board would prefer, even if it was $1,000, if the board would prefer we bring every one of those scopes to the board, we can.
Well, it's not that I want that to happen. Since there is no budgetary cap on the amount of this, of using this person, then theoretically, again, I deal with theory, not with the persons. You could accumulate a lot without any approval of the board.
Well, there is, in general engineering, there is a specific amount for the entire year that the electric department has that's in the budget. So no matter what, on any engineering services, we couldn't exceed that amount. But again, on this particular issue, if any engagement with GDS, if the board wants specific approval of it, it's fine, we can bring that to them. I mean, this is primarily a tool to help the board answer its power supply questions.
And I want that. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm just, again,
Yeah, I mean,
looking
staff-
at the process and not the,
I mean, there's lots of, we get questions on substation things that we do, for instance, substation work, and we'll engage with somebody and say, can we work on this little piece? And it may be $5,000, and we have a specific general engineering amount of money in the electric department that we may engage with them for $4,000 to help get us an answer on something so we can keep moving with what we're doing. That's generally how we do those particular things. But on this one,
what's the amount right now, Hans, that if you just take the one that Vint just described, like just some substation work, what's our cap right now before it would come to the board on this type of contract?
Well, the procurement policy, I'm not sure. I'd have to look at the procurement policy. As far as legally, all of that's a professional service, so you don't need to.
And we've already met that by securing this contract.
Yes.
We've already met that threshold. So now just is how much can Gary approve?
30,000 is what by the procurement policy.
Is that
what it is?
I'd have to defer the procurement policy for that.
I think it's for instance, it would be $5,000 for Travis. It's $10,000 for me. It's 30,000.
One option, kind of to your point, is, and I think we've done this before, when we, want to give the authority or keep the authority to do things as you need to without delay, et cetera, but we ask for notice when it has occurred. Maybe we could ask for that, just, you
For
know, an
notice if it's
email
gonna be more,
notice.
if it's gonna be more
Reporting
than,
process of
Right.
activity.
The GDS firm, they are not a typical like engineer firm. They are doing the power supply, transmission, or to be the expert on the FERC, you know, help like Henderson or Owensboro or any other municipal, help them design the power supply or manage something less risk for them. But they are not the typical engineer firm to help subsidy design or transmission design. I think they are more help basic the power supply or big transmission decision. So I think you know, we as a staff really want to hear the direction from you. You know, this is a more I heard of for a long time. The board want to have a
resource like this to
resource
vet
in
some-
your
vet
toolbox.
some policy
Yes,
issues.
yes. So it's the procedure we have to go through, selection, the bid process based on our pricing policy. I think that's what we want to do. Actually, what we plan to do, if you okay, we plan to have the first meeting with them, talk to say what's our general concern picture on what's theirs. Then they might have some kind of idea what are we looking for, how many hours they need to put in. But any of the decision, we definitely want to, you know, if you like to, we definitely want you involved, you know ahead of time. To me, to us, most this is something help the board to make this big decision. We've been talking a lot, for example, KYME looking for a new generation. That's a huge decision for us. You know, I just don't want to, it's me or Wayne or David, just me have a turning reason I didn't say it, then end up there's a huge consequence for the company. That's what I don't want to.
Well,
OF say, okay, generally Gary don't like a new generation. I'm worried about risk. But maybe that's the right choice, just in case it is, right? That's the kind of things we are thinking about. But, Ms. Mason, please, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, I'm for this project, but I think what Catherine said, I mean, some notice, a reporting of the use of this firm to the board. I mean, it's still allowing you to use them whenever you need them within your approval, but some reporting of the activity to this board from this group.
We'll report you the first meeting, and before the meeting, maybe I say what a question you would like to ask, right? We can ask them to have an idea what are we looking for. Is 20,000, 30,000? It really depends on how much work, how detailed we want to do, right?
Well, I'm talking about once we get into the contract and we get in a
Yes.
routine with this.
So Steve, are you okay with the contract as is, or do you want to add any additional language or
No, I'm good.
procedure? Are you okay as we are? Okay. You feel comfortable, Gary, with Steve's
Yes.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure we can update the board
Okay.
before we pull a trigger for any decision.
Okay. Any
Yes.
other questions for Vint on? Okay. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Contract's approved. Consider award of RFP 2023-02 for water treatment plant lab renovation project to Herrick Company for $159,600.
Good evening. The water quality lab at the water treatment plant is original to the plant and in need of renovation. The renovation consists of replacing cabinets, upgrading the floor, rewriting sample lines, upgrades to the HVAC system, window and light replacements, and painting the walls. The request for proposals was direct mailed to 5 contractors and publicly advertised. On June 2nd, 2023, one proposal was received from Herrick Company for $159,600. The Water Treatment Department budgeted $255,000 over fiscal years 23 and 24. Herrick Company has performed multiple jobs at the plant in the past, therefore based on past work experience, staff recommends the board award the work to Herrick Company.
And I think you had mentioned, Brandon, one of the reasons we only got one bid on this, relatively, this isn't that large of a job.
Right, yeah, they said it was just a small job, and then there were some scheduling conflicts also.
Okay. And the cabinets are not in this, the cabinets are being handled separately under state price contract?
Yeah, the cabinets are included in that 255. They've
Fine.
already been ordered. So there was a 6 to 8 week delay on those. So
Of
we
course-
went ahead and
of course
ordered
there
those. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we knew I mean, they scratch build everything, so
Yeah.
it takes a little bit of
Yeah.
time. So
Anybody have any questions for Brandon on, and this was budgeted?
yes, in
at the-
23
in the
and
project,
24.
right.
Yes.
So, anybody have any questions? If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Well, Brandon, it's about time. We got you for
It's
three.
your, yeah.
It's the chemicals
the
we've been
moment you've been
waiting-
waiting for.
Yeah, so
Uh,
next item is item 6.7. Consider approval of change order number 2 for the ammonia, pardon,
You want to pass that one?
That,
Been over 6.7.
6 I'm sorry,
Yeah.
6.7, I was reading 6.7, but I called the wrong. Ammonia and sulfuric acid upgrade project to water treatment plant, bid 1740.
well, that got scratched.
Okay, that's scratched.
Yeah.
Now, 6.8, consider award of bid invitation 1779, semi-annual price contract for water treatment chemicals at fiscal year 024, July through December.
Yes. Staff prepares a semi-annual bid for the chemicals used in water treatment. The bid includes estimated quantities and explains that orders could exceed or fall short of the estimate. The vendors bid with the understanding that the bid's purpose is to hold unit price throughout FPB's fiscal year. This bid received 15 reverse auction bids, and after reviewing each bid, staff recommends awarding to the lowest bidder, meaning specifications with the exception of the powder activated carbon.
And you want to explain the reverse auction?
The way the reverse auction work is each vendor who puts in a bid, they make an initial bid, so it may be $1 per pound. So it'll go from $1 and they go to 99. They just work backwards, and then they go down to like 4 or 5 decimal places. It's crazy how far they go down on them. So they're actually just start high, hopefully end low. So
But some bidders won't participate, right?
there, Morton Salt is one of them that will not do it because they pay a percentage to eBridge, who holds our reverse auction. So I guess they don't want to pay that fee to them. This is the way I understand it.
Do we have any questions on item 6.8? If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Approved. Item 6.9, consider award of bid invitation number 1784, semi-annual price contract for water treatment chemicals for fiscal year 24.
It's the same thing over again. We received 2 sealed bids in this auction. Morton, we have to do this just for Morton. They're the only ones who made our specs, so that's the reason we have to do this.
Which probably also says why they won't do reverse auction, right? If they're the
Yeah.
only one,
Yeah.
no use
Yeah.
bidding against yourself.
Yeah.
Any questions on this one?
I'm just curious about the process. So who decides whether it's a reverse auction or just a standard bids?
The reverse auction is something that was started, I don't know how many years ago. We've done it for,
Probably 7 or 8 years. maybe
yeah, I was
10
gonna say
years.
6 to 8 that we've done it this way. And actually, I think it works out well because you can actually sit there and watch them fight. Like somebody will bid and they'll go back and forth, and it drives a lower price. So with Morton not doing the reverse auction, we have to do it this way because Morton is the only one who meets our specs. Our specs are tight on the salt so that we don't have bigger problems in our on-site generation is the way that we have to do it. They have a great product, and we have no problems out of our generator. So
We originally tried to include the salt, and it was for a couple of years.
Yeah,
It was
we
included.
did. This is
But it just got to where they were the only person that was bidding, or only 1 or 2 people, and then they pulled out and wouldn't do it anymore. And so there was no point to try to keep doing the salt in the reverse auction. They wouldn't participate.
This is the first full year, so we've done 2 this way since we're doing it every 6 months instead of a year.
So based on the product and who you know is gonna be able to meet specs, in your experience, you're gonna determine which is the most advantageous way to conduct the
Yeah,
process.
there's,
I think to answer your question, we encourage reverse bids, but we can't force people.
yeah,
So when you can't force people to do it, the alternative is the conventional.
we have to have the salt too, so we can't do without it, so it's something that we have to have, so.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, any other questions? If not, do we have a motion on item 6.9?
So moved.
Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Item 6.9 is approved. Thanks, Brandon. Item 6.10, consider approval of change order number 1 to Team Fishel for storm restoration. Adam Heller.
I'm sorry, which one are you just discussing?
6.10.
It's kind of tucked in there. Yes,
on.
staff recommends change order number 1 to bid 1752. And basically what this is Team Fishel is our contractor now for our fiber to the home build. And the scope of their current contract doesn't cover storm restoration. As you know, we had the wind thing in March, and they came in and helped, but then we quickly realized that they're getting paid by the foot versus by the hour. And so this is a change order we'll add, and this will only be used if we have another large storm or major outage to where we need their assistance. But this kind of puts in line with the way the industry does it. I think electric does something similar with a couple companies too, just to have this kind of in our backup for emergencies.
Have any questions for Adam? If not, do we have a motion on item 6.10?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's approved. Item 6.11, consider renewal of tree trimming services contract to Wright's Tree Trimming Service. Jennifer Heller. I might add, last night on TV in Louisville, they were showing storm damage, and Wright was down there doing tree work for, I guess, LG&E, and they were cutting trees and moving them, so. Jennifer?
Good evening. The current tree trimming contract expires June 30th. We did that bid in 2020 for a 3-year contract. The bid allows for 2 one-year renewals. So we would like to use the first 1-year renewal. The bid allows for labor and equipment charge increases or decreases based on the CPI. They've offered a rate for this 1-year renewal of a 3% labor increase and a 0% increase on equipment. So we feel they've done an exceptional job, and rebidding it, we feel, would probably result in higher labor and equipment. So we would like to use that 1-year renewal to go through June 30th of 2024. It will be starting July 1st.
The only thing I know about them is, not in my house, but next door, they did work I guess after a storm. I mean, they did good work. I mean,
Yeah, as far as I know, I hear positive results from staff. Once I do the bid, I don't really work with them as much. It's more on, electric and telecom. And I haven't heard of any problems.
they're good. They got in there, cleaned up. I mean,
They did, and
Yeah,
they were there with us during
they've
the
been
windstorm.
Compared to what we
the whole
struggled with
weekend.
before with paperwork and records and then of course the work itself and keeping the crews on board there, it's been considerably better than what we've dealt with in the past. We would definitely want to keep this firm, and they do a great job.
Anybody have any questions for Jennifer? If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Item 6.11 is approved. Item 6.12, you gonna stay with us, Jennifer?
I'm up here one more.
Consider
The last
award
one.
of bid invitation number 1785, price contract for ductile iron pipe fittings and tapping sleeves to Core and Main and hydrants and valves to Ferguson Waterworks.
So we do an annual, previously they were annual price contracts. All of this is kept in our inventory for the water department. And the beginning of COVID, I believe we started in July of 2020 doing a 6-month because no one wanted to hold their prices for the year. We went back to a 1 year on this, and all the categories decreased. So that area, as far as pricing, has turned around some. There's still long lead times on some of these fittings, things like that. But as far as pricing and them willing to hold the pricing for the year, that has turned around. So we recommend part of the low bidder on all of these. The Core and Main had the low bid on the pipe fittings and tapping sleeves, and Ferguson was lower on the hydrants and valves.
Okay. Do you have
And
any
this is the
questions?
first, I mean, we had really big increases the past 3 years. So this was a shock.
Do you have any questions for Jennifer on this? Okay, if not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second? We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's approved.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Jennifer.
Travis?
I think you're ready for us.
Okay, if we go back, if you want to go back on your agenda to item 6.2, first one is consider acceptance of new electric rates to be effective July 1st, 2023. Travis?
Yes, sir. Good evening again. As y'all recall, at the regular May meeting, staff with the assistance of 1898 and Company presented a draft report of a cost of service and rate design study. On May 31st, a public hearing was held to discuss the proposed rates. Craig with 1898 and Company is back with us again this evening. I think he's got a short presentation he can go through just to kind of recap where we are on the rates. Again, we had the public hearing into May. To my knowledge, we've not received any comments specific to the rates or the cost of service study. We had one large industrial customer come to the public hearing. Staff has since that meeting met with them in person. We did a 1 year analysis of what their projected cost would be. It should be pretty favorable to them. That they shouldn't see very much of an increase or decrease. They seemed, happy with that situation. Of course, less is always better, of course. But so, anyways, that's where it stands today. Again, Craig will run through a quick recap, and we'll be happy to answer any questions. If you give me just a second here, I will try and get it loaded. Can we present, Ryan? Okay. Anyways, okay.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. It's good to see you all again. It was adventures in business travel getting here.
Where'd you come in from?
Ended up coming through Chicago, but I'm based in Kansas City. So
Okay.
fill you in the full story later. Okay, so basically it's just a real brief summary. Like you've heard this 3 times now. I just wanted to hit the high points again. And we've got kind of all the rates in this, kind of in an appendix. I want to show the residential again for sure, and just kind of go over the main points, and obviously be here to answer questions, facilitate discussion, make sure you all have what you need to make an informed decision. As the main core of this, before we got to rate design, as you know, was a cost of service study. And overall, we're looking at a need for a 7.8% increase to get a rate of return up to 7% even, and that's a return on net plant. And the decision was made to break that up over 2 years, so we're looking at system average, 2 increases of 3.9% overall. Looking at this bottom row, the percentages, you kind of see the percentages of each class relative to the system average of 17%. And it's a pretty clear trend here. The residential showing that 19.4% means they should need the biggest increase to get all the way to cost of service. And we're not recommending they go that far, but that's kind of part of the decision-making process. And understanding that they're under collecting their cost of service, and general services right about on. And then you see your larger customers would show the need for a rate decrease. Now, we're not giving anyone a decrease, we're not giving anyone a huge increase, but we use this to inform the decision on how we make adjustments based on cost of service. And that comes out in the target revenue. So basically what we've said, of that 3.9% increase each year, we want to give directionally more to residential and directionally less to the commercial classes. And to get there, we capped that at saying no individual class is going to have more than 150% of the system average. And that worked out to 5.85% for residential and 5.85% for lighting rates. And that was the two ones that showed the biggest increase. And that generates a little bit more revenue, and we use that to collect less than the system average for large power and large industrial high load factor. And that comes out to 2.16% in 2024 and 2.01% in 2025. As you recall, you'll see the creation of a new class for general service demand that basically split or created a third class between general service and large power. It's kind of that medium commercial customer. So that's going to be created in fiscal year 24. So that gives us a revenue target for each class. And then from rate design, the goals and objectives were to reduce interclass subsidies. That's the target revenue piece of it, making those directional changes based on cost of service. We wanted to use the results of cost of service to have an understanding of like customer-related cost and demand-related cost relative to energy, with the goal of recovering more of those fixed charges, or fixed costs and fixed charges. So we targeted that with the customer charge specifically. Like I said, we created a new general service demand class for customers with a peak demand between 50 and 500 kilowatts. And then we restructured the large industrial high load factor rate. So instead of just having a lower rate all the time, it results in a higher demand charge and a lower energy charge. So as customers increase their load factor, they're going to see an incremental benefit overall. And then the recommendation in the report is to eliminate the gratis and municipal classes and just have all customers pay based on the size of the load they are, based on the standard classes. With a side note, if you decide to maintain the gratis and municipal classes, which is not wrong at all, I definitely would recommend creating a municipal demand class, so those classes do have a demand rate, so it's more reflective of their cost of service, especially relative to your power supply. And then I just wanted to follow up with I have all the individual classes in here, but I wanted to point out residential specifically. So we're increasing the customer charge from $11.45 up to $18 over 2 steps. Happens to be that 18 is right about the customer-related costs from the cost of service study, so that was very specific target that. And you can see you have a much lower increase in the energy charge because of that. So it only goes up from 9.4 to 10, right about 10 cents over 2 years. So the bill comparison at the bottom right is actually deceiving. It's actually better than this, because when we go to fiscal year 24 rates, the current PCA is going to go away. So this is actually comparing the existing bill to the recommended bill, both with no PCA. So actually in fiscal year 24, it's almost break even. You take away the PCA, you put in the base rate increase. For most customers, they're not going to see much of an impact in year 1. So it's really just that second year where they're seeing it, assuming the PCA stays 0 there. And that hits the highlights of what I wanted to go over. Obviously, I'm welcome to go through any of the other classes, answer questions, whatever all helps you make a decision.
You have any questions for Craig? So basically, with what's in front of us, Vin, is these rates. If we adopt this, this is basically reflected as we move forward into the new budget, correct?
Correct. And again, these increases were broken over 2 different years.
Right.
I can't remember, David, I think you're just approving one of them here.
Yes.
Because
Right.
again, with the changes that KOMEA,
Right.
you, depending on what happens, we'll reevaluate with
Fiscal
the changes
25 could look-
and see what happens.
Right.
It may be totally different. We may not have a need for that second piece if what KOMEA is
And if the
looking
money
like.
if the refunds come in, they
Yes.
build up their cash reserves, all those, right.
Yeah. So, I mean, the way it's looking, we probably won't have to, but, again, keep in mind, one of the key things here is it's starting to correct some deficiencies in the.
Which is pretty amazing, really, when you look at
Fairness.
what all's going on around us with other utilities in this state, other states,
Yeah.
and the fact that we've had we haven't had a rate increase since 2017,
17, August 1 or 2, or
yeah,
July
and this
1 of
year
2007.
probably roughly break even from where we are. And then next year could be a small increase, but that actually could be in large part avoided depending on what happens. That's a 7-year run. That's
7-year run in an extremely bumpy
Yeah,
couple of years
on a bumpy road,
you
yeah.
could say. That's an understatement.
Only thing I say is
Well-
the downside. The downside I'm saying is if in the future, if coal and gas price, just like what happened 16, 18 months ago, if we're going to see that the market from double, almost triple, then that will be very hard to hold on.
Right.
But hopefully we wouldn't say it for the next couple of years. Currently, as all the people say, the long-term and future gas price currently looks like it's fairly stable.
Yeah. And the fact that KYME had the reserves kind of provide that cushion the last year to weather those increases without having to pass them on, so.
Correct. Yeah. And the plan board has been given the refund for a few
Right.
years.
Mhm.
That's the shared saving with the customer. Quite a few years in
Yeah.
line, the board
We gave
approve
back-
year
we
by
gave back
year.
money, right.
Yes.
Craig, you got any final words of wisdom or encouragement or
I don't.
cautions?
I've enjoyed working with y'all. I think I even told Adam, he commented too when he was here for the public hearing that it's a very engaged board and knowledgeable board. So, no, I think I trust you'll make a good decision either way.
John, I do
Yeah,
have
John.
one question. How many folks will go into the new general service demand class for customers, that sweet spot area you talked about?
I have that in the model. I can look it up for you. I don't have it
Okay.
off the top of my head though.
I just whenever.
Yeah.
That's right.
It was mostly customers out of the general service class moving up
Okay.
than more moving down.
Okay.
And I think we asked you this last time, but again, this design, what you've recommended here, based on what kind of what's going on in the industry, other utilities, Kentucky, elsewhere in the nation, is pretty consistent with what we're looking at tonight.
Absolutely.
I mean, not that just saying just because everybody else does it, that's what we're doing.
No,
But
it's
this is
true, but
pretty
I mean,
much
it
where
definitely
everybody's gravitating
I've
to.
been going through a whole lot of rate hearings over the past few months, and it's very much a consistent increase in the customer charge. And part of that's because I'm recommending it, but but it's a very consistent theme of people are starting to realize, especially with other areas where rapid expansion of customer-owned solar is more predominant than it is here. Probably more important there, but it's just kind of keeping you ahead of that curve with equitable cost recovery and not letting it get too far down the road.
Okay.
I have a
Kevin?
question, maybe for staff, is just with the analysis we've gotten, when we look at year 2, based on where we are then, will we be able to make a decision without going back, to 1898, or we've got the information that we can plug in the new numbers and know whether we stick with the plan or not?
Yes, and that's what we did in the past when we had our previous cost of service. You know where we are, and you can just keep working your rates towards achieving more in line with the cost of service is.
Great.
Okay. Are we ready to, for a vote?
If you want one, I'll make a
Yeah.
motion to approve the new electrical rates effective July 1st, 2023.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Approved. Craig, again, thank you for
Absolutely.
your work and your assistance.
I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, the next, first one is, we did have two, on item 6.3, we had two written comments submitted, right? So does the board need to act to accept those into the record, or?
I would accept them into the record. Sorry, accept them into the record and then give whatever consideration, whatever weight the board wants to afford those.
Travis's analysis was.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't know the question.
Your review of the comments.
Correct, yes, it's been submitted to the board as a draft. It has not been posted on the website or anything until the board has had a chance to make comment on it yet.
But we've received other public comments.
We had one person in person, and we had one other person who submitted a letter also, didn't we?
Correct, yes, and to my knowledge, I thought that was passed to the board, but I can get that to you. I could also summarize. It was.
You want to go over, you want very briefly?
Sure, yeah. I mean, it was essentially the same thing that we heard during the oral comment section, that the proposed price doesn't present a bill savings. And, you know, obviously that would have been preferred by the, based on the public comments we received. So yeah, we did receive 2 written comments to that effect. One was from Mr. McDonald, who was also here in person, yes.
Right.
Is it appropriate to say who the other one?
I mean, it's a public, it was Ms. Schumacher submitted the other written comments.
Right, and those were provided to the board.
Right.
I just think it's important that the community comments.
Right.
And so I kind of want to acknowledge when someone
Yes.
takes the time and consideration to do that, because I know it's appreciated.
And you want to basically, just very briefly, Travis, highlight, I think the concerns were, you know, we're covering, we got capital costs and then other costs too, and you want to just summarize what was in your analysis?
Sure, be happy to. So in the proposed policy, we have two options for the customers to subscribe to solar units at the facility. You can pay a one-time subscription fee of $1,049.70, and that entitles you to the energy for the next 25 years. Or you can pay $396 per month per unit, which is a month-to-month for, it's a 12-month subscription, essentially, if you do the month-to-month. So the way we determine those cost components, number one, obviously the big one is the capital cost of the facility, the $426,000 to build phase 1 of the solar facility. But what we also considered when we established that cost, we included a small rate of return. Craig has mentioned several times, you know, that's not a profit, that's a rate of return on the plant that we need to kind of keep our system funded. There are marketing and administrative costs to get the word out there. We also have all the back office costs to manage the program. The operation and maintenance of the facility for 25 years, a distribution system recovery, and a coincident peak recovery cost. So when we were kind of early in the process, we were going back and forth on this idea of, we know we have a price per kilowatt hour on the output of the facility, but what about those other infrastructure costs to wheel the power from our facility to each customer's meter that's subscribing? So that's what those two pieces were. Craig helped us establish those with the cost of service study. Those are directly out of 1898 and company's report. So that was the basis for those. And again, I think the idea is to get the complete picture, we want to, number one, ensure we're not cross-subsidizing the cost of the facility. It's a voluntary program. We want to make sure everybody, we want lots of subscribers, but we want to make sure they pay their fair share. And so that was the approach to ensuring that we didn't do just that we didn't cross-subsidize it. We thought each of those pieces were necessary to establish a fair rate.
Steve, did you?
Just going back to the comments, do you have the comments from the lady that emailed to us?
I do. Yes, I can provide them to you.
Well, no, I think when you emailed them, I think
Okay.
we read it.
Mhm.
I was thinking we should read it in public because Mr. McDonald's comments were read,
Okay.
and we do read the comments, the public comments at the beginning.
So you want those read into the record?
Yes.
Do you have those in your file there, Kathy, or?
If you'd like to give me a second, I
Okay.
can probably find them. You got it handy already? Okay, yeah, sure.
I did have to work for you.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, so the other public comments we received, this is from Envision Franklin County. Dear Frankfurt Plant Board, thank you for the opportunity to comment on the Frankfurt Plant Board's proposed community solar program. This program offers an important opportunity for customers to obtain solar energy. Envision is concerned that the current pricing, however, is too high to be attractive to Frankfurt Plant Board customers. The current retail rates proposed are so high that customers will have no incentive to participate, even though they may want to support solar energy. The community solar program will be successful if participants can share in the cost savings offered by low-cost solar power and see a reduction in their utility bills. This is the original goal of the FPB and the RFP used to solicit bids for building the community solar array. As a note, page 3, purpose of the RFP, FPB's interest in pursuing solar PV projects reflects the following prioritized goals. Offer Frankfurt Plant Board customers an alternative to rooftop solar installation, reduce costs and barriers to entry for solar ownership, offer renewable energy options for low and moderate income customers, make progress towards the community and board's renewable energy goals, support local solar businesses, jobs, and workforce development. We fully support these goals and hope that the current proposal for the community solar program can be modified to reduce costs and barriers to solar ownership by offering renewable energy options for low and moderate income customers. It is essential that the program minimizes the cost of participation and provide utility bill savings to participants. As currently written, the FPB's proposed subscription rates do not present an investment for customers, just an additional cost. In effect, customers are being asked to pay a premium for participating in the community solar project. This is not only at odds with the express purpose of the project, it will likely limit participation and the ultimate success of the project. Thank you for your consideration. Sincerely, Chris Schimmeler?
Schumacher, yeah.
Yeah. And that is the end of the comment. Again, I think it was, similar to what we heard from Mr. McDonald. The concern is the cost doesn't represent a bill savings. I think that's basically the short summary of it, if you will, which I would agree on the surface. Yes, that is true. If you subscribe now, you're not going to see a bill savings. But to the comment, it doesn't offer an option for low-income customers. I think I would counter that it does, even though it's maybe not a bill savings. Customers will have other incentives to participate in solar. For instance, the big one being, of course, if you have environmental concerns, you may want to participate in a solar program. At $396 a month, again, even though it's maybe not a bill savings, I would still, think that's a pretty low barrier to entry, especially if you consider the alternative is maybe a rooftop system, which could, potentially cost tens of thousands of dollars.
As I understand it, this rate that we're offering is a lock. So when we talk about future rate increases, they would be subscribing at this rate, and that would be their rate. So if, as Gary was talking about, if we have other increases from other power sources, correct, those would go up, but this rate would be locked, right?
Correct, yeah. So it's that rate stability is another incentive. So again, at fiscal year 2024 rates, no, it's not a bill saving, but who knows what the regular retail rates will be 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the road.
I would add to it as well. I mean, I know the rate is not, obviously, you don't necessarily save money doing this, but we did spend quite a bit of effort to reduce the cost as much as we could. A very similar offering from neighboring utilities not very far from us is $5.55, where we're offering it for $3.96. So, and again, they do the same financial analysis, and when they did their cost and did their things, that's what they came to as a financial analysis. They needed to recover the cost, and again, not subsidize it. And so I think we've done quite a bit better maybe than that standard, and I think that should be noted as well.
John?
Another thing too is we wanted to make this kind of a standalone thing too. We did not want all of our ratepayers subsidizing this. We wanted this to carry its own weight. And, this is a chance for people that are concerned about this to really put their money where their mouth is and really, and I've heard nothing but good things about it. I've heard a lot of interest out in the community about it. I really think we've got the potential to sell one out fairly quickly and move on to 2, 3, and 4. I really, really hope we do, and I'm just glad we're doing it. So I think the analysis that our staff came up with and the response that was been developed by our staff, there are more costs than just simply the cost of putting the panels out there. And I think everybody needs to realize that. There are transmission costs, distribution costs. Are you going to expect that thing to sit out there for 30 years and nothing go wrong with it? So, if something goes wrong with it, we're going to have to fix it. So we have to take that into account as well. So I appreciate you, and I thought the response that you all came up with was very well thought out, and we are going to put that on the website after we accept it, correct? So everybody kind of knows what our thought process is behind it. So that's just my comment.
Catherine?
And to Mr. Snyder's point, I encourage the public to read
Yeah.
our response.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty safe to assume over the next 20 to 30 years, electric rates will go up. And this is locked. I mean, so you're exactly right. That gap, that differential will narrow and probably shift. And I think you're exactly right. Jason deserves a huge, and along with Vint, Travis, David, and everybody that worked on it. And Catherine, you too did a lot of work. I mean, you need to be acknowledged also for everything you did on it, so. So I guess, Hans, do we talked about make sure we do the process correctly. Do we need to formally accept the comments, or the fact that we've read them in and they're in the record, or do we need to take any further action on the comments to make them officially part of the record and post them?
I think I might just make a motion to accept the comments, and then make a note that, you know, they were read into the, you know, read as part of the public meeting.
Okay.
They can be attached, you know, I guess they can be attached to the minutes,
Right.
made part of the board's minutes.
If that's the case, then, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to have both public comments as well as the staff's response to Mr. McDonald's comments assumed as read into the record and attached to the minutes of these proceedings this evening.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Then the next motion would be, as a result of hearing Travis's presentation, hearing the information, we have in front of us item 6.3. Do we have a motion to vote on this as submitted to us?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that the board approve the community solar agreement that was first presented to the board and the public on May 16th, and then again at a public hearing on May 31st.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Items approved. Ms. Poe, double check me. Have we gotten everything?
Yes, I believe we have.
Does that take us down to number 7?
Do.
Okay. Mr. General Manager? Do you have any words of wisdom for us? Okay, item 8.1. Do we have a motion on that?
Mr. Chairman, I request permission to call closed session pursuant to KRS 61-1C, discuss pending proposed litigation regarding collection matter, and KRS 61-810-1G to discuss specific proposal that if openly discussed would jeopardize the siting, retention, expansion, or upgrading of a business.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? If we can, we'll reconvene in 5 minutes. We're going into closed session. need a motion to come out of closed session.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor of coming out of closed session, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We're out of closed session. Do we have a motion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to direct staff to proceed as directed by the board on both items 1 and 2 that were discussed within the closed session.
We have a motion. Do we have any further discussion on that? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's adopted. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We're adjourned.